as I said on the last live, this is just daily 10-minute sprints just to get into the habit. If you've been on the other lives, then you might have noticed a different no mask. This is different from the other one that I had before. This is called the Ko Omote mask. This is probably the most legendary no mask. If you think of no theater, if you see no theater anywhere advertised, marketed, spoken about by Japanese people, this is most likely the mask that they would show you. It is a young girl that is basically the symbol for innocence, komote. And all the no mask artisans that you speak to, that you hear talk about the 700-year-old art form that is no theater, all of them say this is the most difficult mask to carve. And it's funny because I'm taking a no mask carving class right now with a legendary sensei, Sumimura san. Shout out to him. He actually learned no theater mask carving from Hori Yasuemon, which is also a legend in the game. And yeah, he said the same thing. He said basically the Ko Omote mask is the first mask you start off carving, but it is also the most difficult. So you can tell which artisans are actually good at what they do based on their komote, their version of the komote mask. So if you don't know about Japanese traditional crafts, they learn by watching their sensei, their teacher craft. So they'll just like sit behind them and observe and watch, and then just copy the moves. And that is the same for this type of mask. Wooden, carved out of one wooden block. And yes, this mask, very expensive. This one was basically, I think this one I might have paid $4,000 at the time. I'm trying to remember. This was back in 2022, 23. Yeah, I'm scared. Someone said on TikTok, I'm scared. Someone also said, what the fuck? And no, I'm not joking. Yes, I paid $4,000 for this because it is legendary. Legendary. As I said, the person that crafted this studied under the most well-known sensei in the world, or not in the world, in the no theater mask carving world in Japan. And okay, so there's a lot of people saying stuff. I believe it is haunted. Some people actually do think this is haunted, and I don't blame them. Like, look at that. It's pretty creepy, you know. But I like that effect actually. And yeah, so if you're familiar with Japan, if you're familiar with any type of Japanese movie, like especially Akira Kurosawa or any type of anime, you probably have seen this. Even Ghibli, you've probably seen this. And that's how, because that's how influential this mask is in traditional Japanese culture. Someone said, I know who you are. All right, who are you? And how do you know me? What's the inside of the mouth feel like? Yeah, I don't know, man. You said the mask is creepy. That's a creepy question. But it's all wood. It's all wood. So I'm sure you guys know what it is. All wood, all Japanese cypress, carved from one block of wood. And yeah, so that is the Japanese no mask. And that is why that is the inspiration for a lot of the books I write. As I mentioned on previous lives, that I am a writer and I wrote a bunch of different books. A few of the books I showed on the last live were this one, Kyosei, which is based on my first trip to Japan. That's so pretty. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you liking this cover because that's actually based on a photo I took in the mountains of Nagano. Snowy, actually, in the background, all of that. completely different, but edited it for this book, which is a little historical fantasy vibe. I changed it to have a little bit of AI in it. This is back in 2016, and when I say it has AI in it, it is based on uh, okay, the antagonist in the book uses AI as a way to attack the protagonist, this guy, who is from ancient China but gets time warped to modern Japan and has to figure out a way to survive without knowing any of the modern stuff that we've all become accustomed to. So that's that first book. I also spoke about Nanking Revolution, which was the second novel that I wrote. This is back in 2017. This is actually based on the Nanking Massacre, which actually happened, and Japanese military buried until recent years. But I already spoke about those books, and today we're going to speak about a little bit different stuff. So, Comfort Ride. Again, these books are very short. But I was in an exploration phase trying to figure out what genres that I actually enjoy writing. This was one of those experiments. It's called Comfort Ride, and it's based on my I took Vipassana meditation. If you're familiar with the silent meditation retreat that was popularized out of India, apparently the Vipassana meditation technique is based on what the actual Buddha did, which was just observe your breath and now just watch it. No repeating mantras, none of the other stuff, just observing your breath. The first silent meditation retreat I went to was when I was 21, and it was in Kyoto. And 10 days, just imagine this, 10 days, silence, you're not speaking to anybody, 8 hours every day meditating. All the rest of the time, you're sleeping, you're doing your, taking care of yourself, hygiene, whatever, but you cannot speak and you cannot have eye contact with anybody else in the center. So it's supposed to be 10 days, close to 2 weeks, of you just observing everything that comes up with this silence. And especially now with this so much input from the internet, it's a lot of people use it as just a way to digital detox, but at 21 at the time, I went there more for the meditation itself. So during that time, a lot of stuff came up, and I put that into this book, but it's from the perspective of I believe it's a Chinese woman. Yeah, that goes through this process, and the writing style is a little bit different, inspired from The Miner by Natsume Soseki, which had no chapters and was like stream of consciousness, which when I read it at the time, I was so surprised at the writing style. It just felt so raw. And that's something I wanted to model with this book. Very short again, but fun experience. I don't even know what genre I'd call this. Yeah, you would have to figure it out yourself. If you want this as part of a group of other books, if you're on TikTok Shop, you can just go to one of the products attached. It's called the Ultimate Thriller Bundle. If you're watching elsewhere, brandonchin.net to get this as part of that series. And of course, very obvious for this one, right? This is when Corona hit, and I was in Japan. And I could see it, cause it happened in China, right? 2019. December, you started hearing rumblings of this respiratory sickness, and I'm like, oh shit, it's about to come over. And Japanese people already wear masks, and so it was an easy transition for a lot of Japanese people. But I was watching the whole situation play out in the States and elsewhere from afar. And I was just like, this is going wild. What is this? What's happening? And, all the conspiracy theories that a lot of it came to be proven true. Uh, I wanted to, explore those things while acknowledging the reality of it and, abiding by all the stuff coming out. But, because especially Japan is very hard stickler for rules, and I already lived at that point probably 6 years, 6 or 7 years, and I was like, I'm not gonna risk my residency in Japan because I think that maybe this is not just a random sickness that came out of, I don't know, a bat zoo, or in the, what do they call it, it's the market in China. Anyway, I took all that stuff and I just wanted to process what was happening. So I wrote this book, the Corona Network, and about a study abroad student in Japan. And it's literally like the stuff I was experiencing, but I go full conspiracy in this, and there's a whole network that is basically using the coronavirus in order to control people's data and all of this. And yeah, it was fun and fast, this one, and super experimental. I actually don't have this available in the thriller bundle. I used to have it up on Amazon, but funny story, the print book was available, but they blocked the ebook when I dropped this in 2020. And I was kind of like, what's going on? Alan Yo, hello. Thank you for joining the YouTube Live. Yeah, Corona Network. That was fun and experimental. And speaking of experimental, I went full experimental in this anthology, which has 3 different books. And again, very short, but I tried, different styles that I thought would be interesting. One of which has Charlie Munger's, if you know Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man. I think he wrote a book called Charlie's Almanac. I don't know, I haven't read it actually, but I haven't read it in full. But I went through and found, it's a book about biases, about cognitive biases. Basically, the traps we set for ourselves, in any type of situation. We have our biases about what is right and who we should listen to, who we should follow, etc. Alan Yu says, I barely read books. Well, what type of books? What was the last book you read, Alan? And yeah, one of those books in this 3 weird novels is basically I took different biases from Charlie Munger's Almanac and biases I wanted to learn about and wanted to actively avoid. I put them as chapters that I wrote from the perspective of a geisha who had specific haptic powers, where haptic is like you can send vibrations through sound in the air. It's like if you know like virtual reality, if you know those goggles. I think recently they now have like vests, maybe not recently, recent years they have vests. If you're like playing a video game and you get shot, they have haptic signals that use sound and vibrations to make you feel like you get shot. So this woman, this geisha, had haptic powers, or I gave her haptic powers, and yeah, she was out there ripping people limb to limb with her powers based on, her working in the night market, if you know what I mean. But yeah, used those biases as chapters and then wrote from that perspective. It was fun. It was a fun experiment again, but also challenging. And I think that's what I try to do for myself and for readers is both challenge and entertain. Alan says, I forget. Yeah, you forgot which book you read last. I think that's pretty common, man. Like, I think it's like 80% of book sales in the US at least is from women. Yeah, most men, and I'm assuming you're a man based on your name, but I think it's, I think it's pretty typical, man. A lot of people, a lot of guys don't read. And if they do, it's like science fiction or epic fantasy. But yeah, if there's any, what is the last book you've read? I'm curious. If you hear this, pop it into the chat. And what is the last book that you read and what genre was it? I'm curious. Yeah, that's one of the books in this anthology. And I think there was another one that I mentioned that I haven't mentioned. Anyway, I'll just show you the chapters. You can see this is how the biases look. And it's probably backwards, but like, for example, social proof tendency, Lollapalooza tendency, inconsistency avoidance tendency. So these are all of the different biases that I thought were interesting, and that's what I went with. And there's another one called Khan the Rebel. Khan the Rebel. So at the time I wrote that, I was with a guy named Khan. I was working with him. He's from the UK. And he was very involved in the sustainability industry. And I felt that I had a lot to learn about it. I didn't know much. I know I was interested in environmental sustainability, but Khan, this guy was actually working in the industry. So I learned a lot from him, and he introduced donut economics to me from Kate Rayworth, an English researcher. And she spoke about circular economies, and you can't just be growth, GDP. You got to have renewable and circular societies that, actively renew resources. And that's what that book is about. It's about, environmental sustainability, but with the thriller vibe where some people get assassinated and knocked off because at least that's how I saw it after listening to him working in industry. I'm like, some people just gotta go, man, and it's the right people or the people, because otherwise it's not gonna happen. Global South already suffering. You need people that are, anyway, I'm not condoning any of that, but that's what I wrote in the book. And that was also fun because it was happening at real time. I would have conversations with him and then go and write, and then boom, 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 back and forth. Alan says, which is the best book? Which is my best book? That's difficult. I don't even know if I could answer that. Best book? Well, Alan, what type of books do you like? Or what type of stories do you like? I think I could recommend the best book for you that I've written. That's better, but I don't know if I have a best book that I've written. It's difficult, man. Alan says, yeah, you gotta think about it, man. Gotta think about it. Anyway, yeah, that was the second one in this one. And then the third one in this is Cortez and the Blockchain. It was like a very short one. If you were on my previous lives, you would know that I turned that into a full book on its own. But that was based on my friend Cortez from university, who ended up being the student body president and I think future mayor in Florida. I'm not going to say what city. I don't want to out him if he doesn't want that information out there. But yeah, I've respected him a lot growing up with him in, figuring out life in college, and used not obviously his physical characteristics, but borrowed his name for the main character in that book. But Cortez and the Blockchain is now a completely different story, and Cortez in the book is not American, he's Japanese. So, completely different. But if you're interested in that book, TikTok shop, jump on the products, or go to my website, brandonshin.net. And Alan says, a funny book. He's looking for a funny book. Yeah, I don't really write comedy, so that's a tough one, man. I don't know the funniest book that I've written. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I got funny moments in my book, but like straight up comedy is a thing. Like, writing comedy is tough. If anybody, what is the funniest book you've written? Drop it in the chat. The funniest book. That's so hard. I actually think the books that don't try to be funny are the funniest. But I have funny moments, but I couldn't tell you funniest. Maybe the lightest. 'Cause a lot of my books are dark, especially like this one, Space Flower. But I'll talk about that on the next live. I think I already went over. I said I was gonna do 10 minutes and 20 minutes already. Alan, you gotta go to my website, brandonshin.net. Take a look at the top bar. You can see books and book bundles. You can click either one of those tabs and it will show you all the different books. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to check it out yourself, man, because I can't even say, I'd be doing a disservice. I don't know your humor, and a lot of the books that I write are thrillers, so the focus is on tension, suspense. Are they gonna survive? Rather than trying to make you laugh. So, yeah, go to my website, check it out, see if you see anything that looks funny, and let me know. But I appreciate you jumping on, and everyone on the TikToks and other socials that I'll be posting this on. Thank you for joining. Kai's Gaming, thank you for coming through. Appreciate you. Mio Wowie 776. Appreciate you. I came on here to talk about the different books that I've had over the years. And this Japanese mask, which is one of the products that I offer on my website, Traditional Japanese Crafts. This one is about I paid $4,000 for this one, but $4,000 US. But there are other options, and yeah, if you're interested in any of the stuff I've shown on the live tonight, head over to brandonshin.net. If you're on TikTok shop. Appreciate you guys for coming through. See you on the next live. Goodbye.